If you are a producing agent and something just feels off, you're not imagining things. You're closing deals, your income looks solid, but at the end of the year, it feels like a reset instead of real progress. This isn't a work ethic problem, this is a brokerage model problem. Look, traditional franchise brokerages were built around physical overhead, like offices, franchise fees, staffs, utilities, and equipment. Those costs do not disappear when you produce more. They just get passed down to you, which is why cloud-based brokerages are now suddenly getting so much traction. They removed most of that fixed overhead and reallocated the economics, and this is where the math starts to matter. Look, this isn't a you problem, this is a real estate problem. And one of the main things that I've realized after being at Real for 2 years is they've solved most of it. Now, is Real perfect? Not by a long shot, and this isn't a just come to Real video, but I want to speak to you about the numbers so you can have all the information prevalent. At Real Broker, every agent operates on a 85-15 commission split. Not something that you negotiate with the broker, not something that it's 50-50 and 35% goes to your mentor. I've been there. Those things suck. You keep 85% of the commission until you cap. That split is the same way in every single state and even in Canada. If you are a producing agent who usually caps, the split determines how painful the first few months of the years are. Look, I've had friends of mine that they've capped and then the cap has resetted and they were giving over 40% of their commission early in the year. Those months always feel tight even though production was strong. And with an 85-15 split, the hit after a reset is much smaller and your cash flow stays much more stable as you work towards your cap. I actually had a broker owner that we brought over to Real a couple of weeks ago and he said something crazy. Gagan, I've saved over $90,000 simply by switching to Real. That's it. That's insane. Now let's talk about the cap itself, because in the United States, Real Broker's cap structure looks kind of like this. Solo agents and team leaders cap at $12,000 per year. Agents on a team cap at $6,000 per year, and agents on a mega team cap at $4,000 a year. Once you hit your cap, you receive 100% of your commission for the rest of the year minus certain transaction fees. There's no transaction fees while you're still paying your cap. You either pay the split or you pay the transaction fee. Not both. And the detail alone is a major difference from many traditional brokerages, because at those brokerages, there's always going to be a transaction fee associated with everything. In Canada, the caps are slightly higher, but Canada is also a little bit more expensive. $15,000 for solo agents and team leaders, $7,500 for team members, and $5,000 for mega team members. What I personally like about this is honestly just the consistency. Every agent in every market pays the same cap. There's no discrimination involved. There's no sweetheart deals, no quiet discounts, no different rules depending on which office you're in. The rules are the rules for everyone. And in fact, I want to tell you a quick story about this and why I like this company so much. Eric Hatch joined Real Broker a few years ago. He's also one of my sponsors. Eric and Tamir met because there were certain other companies that were offering them, let's say, huge dowries. We're talking 7-figure numbers. Eric came to Tamir and said, hey, look, this company's offering me $1 million. What are you willing to offer me? Tamir said this, and this is what I love. He said, Eric, if our relationship starts depending on the size of who has the biggest dowry, that is a relationship that is meant to fail. I love that. And that's exactly why Eric Hatch is now at Real Broker, and for the last 15 years been the #1 team in all of Fargo, North Dakota. It's people like that that understand this is just more than just money, it's about culture. But let's talk about fees first before we get to the cultural thing, because this is where a lot of brokerages quietly add friction. Real has 4 primary fees: a one-time $249 setup fee, a $750 annual fee that's split across your first 3 transactions of the year, a $40 per transaction CVR fee that covers the broker reviews, errors and omission insurance, and processing, and a transaction fee that only applies after you cap. In the United States, that is going to be $285 per deal, and it drops to $129 once you hit Elite Agent. There's no monthly fees, there's no desk fees, there's no technology fees, there's no hidden charges. Especially if you're a newer agent, this is amazing because I've had agents switch over because they simply couldn't afford the monthly fees where they were at. We're talking $400-$500. In Canada, the structure is very similar with higher transaction and annual fees, but the same philosophy applies. Why this matters is very simple. For newer agents, not having monthly fees reduces pressure while you're actually ramping up. For producing agents, not paying transaction fees while you're capping keeps you more money in your actual pocket when it matters the most. For you, if you're a team leader, the cap structure creates predictable stability. And predictability is actually amazing. This is why cloud-based brokerages are not just trendy, they're structurally and fundamentally different. Traditional brokerages reward transaction, cloud-based brokerages reward efficiency, leverage, and contribution. And this is the part that most people absolutely miss. Real broker doesn't fix weak businesses, it exposes them. But if you're already producing, it finally aligns incentively with your performance. This is exactly why more experienced agents are no longer asking which brokerage pays more or which brokerage is better. They're actually asking which model makes more sense in the long term. And if you understand this mathematically, the conversation changes completely. So I want to implore you, have a conversation with someone at Real. Have a conversation with me. Let's talk specifically about what Real looks like for your business. Let's talk specifically about what the numbers entail and figure out if this is the right fit. Because 2026 is here and it's time to step up the game. It's time to not lose money anymore. I've been with multiple brokerages. In fact, I was with another cloud-based brokerage and I'm happy where I'm at now. I brought over 155 people to this company. Let's talk about why Real is the right fit. And look, if you're a team leader and you just want to talk to another team leader, I actually talked to Andrew Hannon, who's the third biggest team in all of Rochester. I'll put that playlist right here. Watch it and I'll see you soon.